18 months later, here I am. Is it 18 months? Moisturiser, Curel. Okay, everything's back to front. I'm just filming this on my Mac, so please bear with me. I felt like I needed to catch up with you, show you my new makeup routine that takes about 3 seconds, so I'm going to have to elongate it today. So, current date is 30th of December 2024. It's probably been 16 or 17 months since my last video. I've got jizz all over my phone. Thank you, do. Yes, I just feel like I needed to catch up with you. Try and go back to when I left off. Obviously, a lot of you probably won't even remember me, but so we left. We moved over to Greece on our boat, and we came back to England. I should have got my makeup all out, shouldn't I? But I haven't. This is my makeup revolution. I don't think there's any left in here. This stuff was recommended by Beauty by Des, and it's incredible. I probably should get a new one out to show you. I'm just going to scrape. This is what we do. We scrape by on the boat now. So I left England. Sorry, I left Greece in at the end of October 2023, and we drove back home with the dogs. It took us 4 days. On the way back, Johnny's van was really poorly. I think when we got to Dover, Calais in France, it was just playing up so badly that we'd had to stop every now and again. Before that, actually, I lie. I go back a little tiny bit. I dropped second day when we had the boat put into the water, where we were learning with our captain that we'd hired. I dropped my iPhone into the sea, and didn't realise until about 3 hours later. Then obviously it was too late. It would have been ruined anyway. So you can't get iPhones out here. You have to order them, and they take 30 days to come. I couldn't get any of my emails because I couldn't recover my Microsoft account. Life was absolutely really bad. I was looking for a job to come and earn some extra money because we had spent so much while we were here. We hadn't realised how bad it was going to be. So I couldn't receive phone calls because my CV was obviously had the wrong telephone number and all of that. So we overcame that. Got back to England, got a new SIM card, reactivate. Yeah, I couldn't get a new SIM card sent because you have to activate your SIM card in the country that it originates. I've got a couple of these Elf. I love this one. This one is my favourite. It's called... Oh, no idea. It's called No Idea. It's a rosy coloured one. Maybe I'll link it down below. I don't know. You just need like the tiniest. Oh no, that's too much. Yeah, so we got back to England. We had arranged with this guy to hire like an apartment in his garden. He lives on a massive property, and it was like, make sure that the dogs behave. We've got peacocks. Like, okay. And basically when we got there, it was literally like a greenhouse or like a lean-to, and there were like chickens running free and cats and stuff, and it's just like, how are we going to do this? How literally the whole front of the house was glass house. It was a one room with a shower and a kitchen that was just a sink, no appliances or anything. And he'd sent some photos, and he said, honestly, it's smaller than it looks. I'm like, yeah, it'll be fine, don't worry, we're used to it. We've lived in a caravan and we live in a boat. Anyway, I had to call him straight away and say, I'm really sorry, it's not going to work for us, because we could never have let the dogs out. It would have, on those winter mornings where you just want to open the back door and let your dog go for a pee. No, it wasn't going to happen. So at that split moment, we went to I had to go to that phone shop, get my phone activated, and we decided then that we were going to get Peggy, our caravan, 40-year-old caravan, out of storage. He was at a friend's. I just need a bit more blush. Look. Well, I think I do, but I probably don't. Maybe it's the lighting that's washing me out. So yeah, we rang Darren and said, can we come and get the caravan? And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. I rang my mum, because obviously it's just in his field. I rang my mum to say, Mum, can we come and put the caravan on your driveway so we've got some heating, because it was freezing cold. And she's like, yeah, that's fine, no problem. We'll make you some dinner. And we need to go back a little bit more. Johnny proposed to me on the front of the boat. It was beautiful, very romantic. We were a little bit tipsy, weren't we, darling? He's got music playing in his head, he can't hear me. So yes, we had arranged to come back in time to get married, and we booked our wedding for December the 2nd. All very romantic. It was lovely. Obviously, so we picked up the caravan. John's wedding ring, which we ordered, was it was made from a whiskey barrel. It was wooden. Johnny, give us your wedding ring, darling. Come and show people your wedding ring.
Sorry, hold on. Sorry. What's up?
Come and show people your wedding ring.
Oh, excellent. I've got to get it off.
No, we can show them and do it on your hand if you want to.
I'm not sure it will come off my finger. That's the problem.
Oh yeah, it's on the wrong finger now.
Oh, which one?
I know
it's on the wrong
finger.
Damn, it doesn't count. Okay.
So
no, it's not coming off, I'm afraid. There we go.
So it's a whiskey barrel and it has a guitar string
yes,
in the middle of it.
Okay, so hang on. This is all back to front. There you go. Guitar string whiskey.
Anyway, so yeah, we ordered that, and Mum got it out of her cupboard because we had it delivered to her house. Obviously, it was giant. It was too big. You can't alter it because it's made of wood and all of that stuff. So that was a bit of a poop. And then so we took the caravan the next day to there's a caravan park which is like a mile away from my house, I guess, and my son is staying in our house. So obviously we couldn't turf him out. He has got a spare room, but I don't want to ruin his street cred and all that. Sorry about the beeping. I just got a Shein eyebrow pencil. Yeah, so we drove the caravan the following morning to caravan site. We had to pay £800 a month, plus £5 a day for electric to stay in our own caravan. And we pulled it up there. We put the awning up, emptied all of the stuff because we ended up bringing so much stuff back to England that we felt that we wouldn't need on the boat. We've still got so much here. Don't get me wrong. So we did that. We put the awning up. We went along the following day to the registry office appointment to do our thing like a month before you get married. And then I started the job hunt. Managed to find something very quickly. Johnny went straight back to work. Unfortunately, the day before he started, his engine blew up. It was the big end. We spent a long time going to different places, and they're like, oh no, it's not a problem, it just sounds bad, whatever. I'm like, no, something's not right. Anyway, so Johnny's the big end on Johnny's van went, and it was like, okay, that's fine, don't worry, we'll go and get my car off my drive. That didn't start. So we were in the middle of nowhere in a caravan. We had no transport. Johnny needed to go to work, so we were going to hire a car. I think maybe we did. Actually, did we hire a car for a couple of weeks? And then it was like, this is ridiculous. We bought a car. We bought a little Polo, like a runaround thing, and we shared that. I managed to find a job in the same town as Johnny, so we would get in the car and just go to work in the mornings, leave the dogs in the caravan. We couldn't get the heating working, so my dad had come round and fix that. He was staying at my sister's at the time. And yeah, so that was that. I have written a list of all of the things that gone wrong, but like we didn't have any water. It was just like, but we were together, we were happy, everything was fine, and I started to order things. We did a budget wedding. I ordered everything, all the table decorations, my dress, the flowers, everything. I got from Shein probably for under £150. My dress was like 30 quid. I'll put a photo in here. I absolutely felt like a princess. It's beautiful. Ended up when we went to the hotel that night, I tried on it going up the stairs in the hotel, and ripped it. But so it ended up going into the bin because it was like lace. It was absolutely gorgeous though. So that was that. That was in December. But do we need to go back a little bit more? I can't remember. So obviously we had Christmas. We went to my sister's, and everything was fantastic. and I can't really think of anything else. No, do they look straight? Anyway, yeah. So we did all the stuff. Johnny continued to work. I continued to work. We had made plans. We weren't going to drive back, but we then then we realised that we couldn't get the dogs on. There were so many different. We were gonna fly back, and then we worked out that obviously you can fly dogs out of England, but it became really complicated and a bit out of control, and you didn't know if it was all going to work to plan. And I need to know that everything's going to work properly. So we decided then that we were actually going to drive back with a lot of the stuff that we didn't want to bring. We were going to bring it back. So we took the caravan back to Darren's house, left it there, left some stuff inside, and then I guess we drove back through Italy and France, and got the ferry from Italy to Greece with the dogs. We bought a really old Volvo, which was like, Johnny loved it because it had like big leather seats and it was really comfortable. It was lovely to drive, and we stayed at some lovely places on the way here. But before that happened, I think it was like the day before Valentine's Day. Those of you who know my dad, and he had an illness, so he had cancer previously, and he was in remission because he'd had chemotherapy and immunotherapy. He ended up with the stoma, a wee bag, and it ruptured one day. He was just doing something, and the stoma died. And it had got entangled up with some. He had a hernia behind his stoma. And it just got bigger and bigger, and he went to get it looked at, and they're like, no, it's fine if you're happy with it. We think that he should have had it done. So he was rushed into hospital. We were called by the consultant. He had to sign something. They basically said it's an incredibly risky operation. Half of his bowel, they'd done some investigation, x-rays and what have you, an MRI, and said half of his bowel, his large bowel, had been destroyed. They would just do their best, but there was an 80% chance that he wasn't going to make it. Again, those of you who know me, my dad doesn't really work like that, and of course after I think 11 hours of surgery he made it, of course. I'm going to use some Charlotte Tilbury something or other. I might link it below. My sister gave me this. So yes, so my sister, this was like as I said, in February. So my sister and I drove up. He was in Norfolk, sorry, he was staying with my brother in Norfolk. So we drove to Norfolk, which is about, I don't know, 3 hours away, and went and saw him in the morning afterwards, and he seemed fair. He had like a drain in his nose and everything. So yeah, he'd recovered from that, and they just said basically, he's made this part of the operation. The rest of it's now down to recovery, and that kind of thing. So, we were there, and he began to get better. He was released, I think, maybe 5 or 6 days later. He did really well. Got to my brother's, completely relapsed, got an infection. Now my dad's been prone to infection for the last 5 years, and I haven't got anything to wipe on. He's one of the dog toys. So yes, so then he had to go back to hospital again. His stoma got infected. They had moved the stoma from one side of his body to another, so essentially he had a new one. And basically, he started to get a little bit better. He went to my sister's house for a visit. This is all a little bit muddled up. I'm really sorry. It was such a long time ago and so much happened. And he was on the road to recovery, so we made the decision to come to Greece, knowing that we were only a flight away if something, untoward happened. I'm going to be using this. This is absolutely beautiful. Mats, just mats. Get one of these. It's about 10 quid. Amazing. $12 or something. $12. So, I still haven't washed my brushes in all of this time. So, we came, we left on March the 1st, and we got here, I think, on the 5th, something like that. And he began to get a little bit better, and then maybe 3 days later He was really poorly. He was refusing to eat. He was in a lot of pain. And my sister, having looked after him for a couple of months, it was just too much for her. It was just way too much, and I couldn't do anything from here. I couldn't help. My brother was in Norfolk, and it just logistically wasn't working very well. So, I said to Johnny, I'm going to go back. I'd had many video conversations with my dad, saying, Dad, if you don't eat, you're going to die. You need to eat. And he's like, yeah, I promise I'm going to eat, Julie. And then 10 minutes later, he'd say, I'm not going to eat. And it was just a lot. It was just so much. So I booked a flight for the following day. We hired a car from here because we're 5 hours from Athens airport. The airport near us doesn't open until the 24th of April or something like that. So we hired a car, left a couple of hours earlier than we needed to. About 20 minutes into the journey on the motorway, the car broke down. So they sent a new car with a tow truck an hour and a half later. We arrived at Athens airport in time, about half an hour before I was supposed to check in, which was great. I flew back to England. I got the train, got to my sister's house, and then I went to see my dad the next day, and he was in a bad way. I guess he went through stages of wanting to eat, not being able to eat, eating, vomiting. The people in the hospital, he went through this thing called, where he had hyper something levels, hypersodium levels, and it was all just so much. Some of the doctors were fobbing us off, we think, by saying, actually, do you know what, we can't find anything, but your dad's got cancer, and obviously, he'd have another infection, then his blood sugar would go, basically he was breaking. They offered us, we got to the stage, actually, Melanie and Dominic were away one Saturday, and I was with Dad, and they said, okay, we need to talk about palliative care, because your dad's basically asleep all day, every day. He's not going to get any better than this. He'd lost probably about 3 stone at this stage, and he wasn't big before that. And he was indignant. He's like, Julie, this is ridiculous. I'm in a nappy. He was a broken man, and it was just so difficult to be in that environment. And the nurses did an amazing job, but they're so understaffed, and we saw people come and go. We saw people come and not make it, and no one was being fed in the ward, and we had to argue that we wanted to be there 24 hours a day because no one was feeding my dad. They didn't have the time, and we wanted to get as much food into him as we could. Eventually, on the day that we talked about palliative care, somebody offered Dad, on the moments he was awake, do you want to try and do a feeding tube? Because every time he was eating, he'd eat his Weet-Bix, and then it'd be, no, I'm not eating anything else. So the feeding tube was offered, and he said, yes, I want the feeding tube. They came and did it, because it was like bank holiday weekend. They came and did it, and within the next morning, he was like a brand new man. Just miraculous recovery, sitting up, chatting. So he had that in for like 2 days, and because of the openness of it, his mouth was full of ulcers. He couldn't talk. His gums were bright red. His tongue was like on fire. That guy, he was in absolute agony. We had to wait 3 days for a prescription, because it was this holiday weekend, to get something to ease the pain, and it turned out it was just something I could have bought from the bloody supermarket, Corsadil. Crazy. So that was like on the Friday. He had it done. On Tuesday or Monday, Melanie and I walked back into the hospital, having had quite a good weekend, and he'd taken his tube out. They just said, your dad didn't want his. They kind of just went, and he just said, oh, it's fallen out anyway. Basically, he'd recovered, and he decided that he was like ready to come home now. And they're like, have you got provision to look after him? And we're like, no, because he's still got a massive infection. He can't walk anymore. I was taking him out into the sun every day to sit with because he obviously lived in Tenerife, and the sun worshipper, and he would just sit there like that, just with his face in the sun, feeling amazing. But then he got to the stage where it was just too much to even get in and out of the wheelchair. Anyway, after another couple of days, his consultant went on holiday. His consultant went away, came back and said, a different guy came, the guy that had seen him when he was admitted such a long time ago. And he said to my dad, this is you're never going to recover from this. You're frail, and your body is stopping. It doesn't want to be alive anymore, or words to that effect. And my dad said, thank you. And then he said to my sister and I, that's it. You need to respect this. I don't want to be around anymore. I'm not having any more medication. Please understand. And it was there was kind of relief that he's a brave guy. Just he's given us so much inspiration through his cancer journey, and it wasn't that. It was just infection after infection, and his body was just stopping, and he was vomiting all the time because his body just did not want to accept food anymore. So that was on the Monday. He made that decision in the morning, and Melanie said her goodbyes. She flew to Tenerife the next day because Dad said to her, you need to go away, you need to have fun with your family. I spoke to I said to Dad, I'm going to stay here, it's whatever. And then the nurses then the palliative care team came around and had said, let's see if we can get your dad into a hospice. At that stage, obviously, we knew that was it. The nurse came, well, the woman who worked in the hospice came like 2 or 3 hours later, and Dad had then started to say things to even not the people trying to give him medicine still. I don't want medicine. How long is it going to take me to die? He was literally the people that were doing the cups of tea. How long is it going to take me to die? My dad has no patience. He was just like, this needs to happen, and then that was it. So the hospice person came. No, I've got that middled up anyway. So the next day, the Tuesday morning, I went into Dad, and he's like, I've got a plan. I said, what's that, Dad? He went, well, I saw my mum last night. Obviously, she died like 20 years ago. I saw my mum last night, and if you could just make us a quick drink, and then job done. He clicked his fingers and he went, job done. Obviously, he was like in and out of delirium at that stage. I went, Dad, I can't do that. I think I'd probably end up going to prison. And he went, oh, bugger, okay. And I said, actually, I've had a plan. Why don't we go to the hospice in Mogahanger, which is literally like 5 miles away. And he knew Mogahanger. It's near in the beautiful grounds and what have you. And he went, yeah, that's a really good idea. So then the hospice people came and said yes. So they transferred us the next day. They transferred us on the Wednesday. We went into the hospice, and he was like super happy, looking out the windows. First thing he asked the people when he got there, the consultants, all come round. They were just the most beautiful people. So they all came around and said, there was a lot of information about, if your dad survives for 2 weeks, then he has to move on. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And he introduced himself to people, and obviously they all loved him straight away because my dad was so lovable. This mascara is the bomb, basically. Oh, this feels like I'm doing a job now. I feel like a little bit detached from it, and I don't mean to be, but I'm trying to get it in the right order. I'm really struggling. So that was on the Wednesday. On the Thursday night, he was quite tired, a bit fidgety. The Wednesday night. And they said, he needs to rest a little bit. So I went back to my sister's house, had some dinner, came back on Thursday morning about 6 o'clock, and he was like, hi, chatting away, talking about the birds in the garden. And then he started to get quite fidgety. He wanted to write a letter. Here we go. He wanted to write a letter to Johnny and I gave him my notepad. And he started to write something about the boat marina, and basically I've had a tattoo done. I can't really show you. These are the last 2 words that he wrote on that letter. No idea what it says. And also his favourite saying was, just effing do it. So I've had, how do I get that on there? JFDI tattooed on there. So we had a picnic on the Thursday afternoon. I went and got some sandwiches for us, and in the evening I went and got a bottle of wine, and we watched Queen Charlotte on Netflix. And I was chatting about his mum. We were just sat holding hands. He was quite I thought he was on morphine, but he wasn't. He had a muscle relaxant to stop him fidgeting. And then we made a plan on Friday morning. He was very cold, bless him. And we made a plan on Friday morning that perhaps 9 o'clock was an appropriate time. His mum was waiting. And he made it to 9:30. It was late. My dad's never late. And he passed away at 9:30. And he managed to hurry up. He managed to make himself die in 2 days. Just the most admirable man. And yeah, my brother didn't make it in time. I left, packed all of his stuff up, said goodbye. The hospice people were amazing, and so I went back to I rang Melanie, rang Johnny, rang my son. Lewis, my son, met me back at Melanie's. I'd been there for like 10 minutes, and he came, gave me the big hug. My brother came, we made some plans. We tried to sort out the funeral because Dad had left us everything. He's always saying, you know, it's all in the file, blah, blah, blah. That's a story for another day. And I just I'd been there for a month, and I just desperately needed to hug my husband. So everyone was like, why don't you go home? And it was like alien just to like go home and leave my dad. But I did. I booked a flight the next day. Packed up my stuff on the Friday night, and it was the most awful feeling in that train going to the airport, Gatwick. I was facing backwards, so I was like leaving the town where I was, where my dad was, and it just felt this enormous, like, I'm just leaving my dad, just sat in a room somewhere. I'm sure some of you, or many of you, will relate to this if you're my age. Putting highlighter, eyeshadow all over my cheeks. So I came back. It was so lovely to be home. Johnny had lit all the boat up and put "Welcome home, babe" all over the mast, and we stayed, I guess. Then we continued to do the plans, and then we went back May the 2nd or something like that, maybe like 3 weeks later, to the funeral. Stayed for 3 or 4 days, and then came back again. Someone looked after the dogs here in the town for us. And yeah, that's I guess I'm gonna leave it there because there's still so much to tell you guys. I would like you all to, if you relate to me, or you've been with me for the last 4 years and you've been on my channel, come and join us on my sailing channel, because Johnny and I do sorry, I've got no tissues. Johnny and I do a vlog, and it's just our everyday life with the cat. We have a kitten now. The dogs, and what we do every day, and walking around and going out with friends and cooking and clearing up and boat jobs. I'd love you to join me there, because I don't have I'm working, so I don't really have much time to do the makeup thing, and I do miss it, but this is it. You know, some days I don't even wear makeup. I can't do a video then, and I feel like it would be nice to reach out and still have you guys around, because I post a video every week there. So I'll put a link, but if you want to Google us, it's Sailing Guditta, Guditta. That's the name of our boat. And it'd be lovely for you to join us. And I will do another makeup video at some point in the future, but just not at the moment. Thanks for listening to my story. The battery's gone flat. How appropriate. It's lovely to see you, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye bye.